So as promised, here I am on the bridge doing section number 2. I'm going to do section 2 and 3 together. This is the South Platte River. While I'm going to Durango, this water is going to go back down Waterton Canyon on its way to Denver and eventually the Gulf of Mexico. So here's the thing about today's hike, is it's going to be 5 miles. It's climbing about almost 2,000 feet, and there will be absolutely no water for the next 10 miles. So this is going to be a tough one. There's also going to be very little shade because I'm going to the Buffalo Creek Fire. So it's going to be climb, 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 dry, dry, dry. Well, this is the first break of day number 1 of the second section of the Colorado Trail. If you look over here, when I was on the last section, that big outcropping of rock over there, that's the one that I came down to get to the river, which is, once again, what do you know, down in the bottom of the valley. You know those people who say, after a forest fire, everything grows back practically instantaneously. There's flowers and grass and yeah, okay, stuff like that happens, but you know, if a tree takes 40, 50 years to grow to maturity, it's not going to look the same for 40 or 50 years. You look at that hillside, that's what a forest fire looks like. All the dead trunks have fallen over and rotted, and yeah, there's grass. And yeah, we got flowers like this, but it doesn't grow back to normal in a big hurry. This hillside looks like a forest fire. It won't look like a forest again for years to come. Break number 2. I'm in the middle of the burn zone at this point. And a little thing about taking breaks is I don't need to take a break now. But you don't take breaks for how you feel now. That's not the point. You take breaks for how you anticipate you'll feel, not here at mile 2, but how I'll feel 3 days from now at mile 24. Or in the long run, maybe even mile 480. All right, folks, 5.5 miles later, and almost 2,000 feet of altitude, I have finally topped the ridge. Here's my view off to the west. After this, the trail is supposed to be more or less level. Hard to understand given that there's that big ridge in front of me. One of the best things about the first day on trail is that you can bring indulgent food with you. Things that would rot or need refrigerating that you can't carry for day 2, 3, or 4 or whatever. But on day 1, you can have yourself a great big ham sandwich with Munster cheese. I'm sorry, yo, bud. It's been awesome. All right. It's the crack of 10 a.m. and I'm back on the trail. So I was sitting in camp, eating my breakfast. A bunch of people trudged along on the trail, and I hear one of them go like, look, there's a guy in camp over there. And somebody else says, oh, I guess we got a sleepyhead. And I said something like, hey, I got all day. Maybe I should have said, F off. But, you know, I kind of get where the sentiment is coming from. It's like that old saying, right? Early to bed, early to rise makes 2/3 of the population grumpy, tired, unproductive, more likely to have heart attack or stroke, more susceptible to developing diabetes or Alzheimer's. You're going, Bill, wait a minute. That's not how that saying goes. It's supposed to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? Well, that's because for some reason that leftover 1/3 of the population that does naturally get up early, I don't know, they hired the best PR firm ever, because they'll lord over other people how superior and noble they are because they get up early. They actually accuse other people of being lazy just because they don't share a sleep schedule with them. Which is kind of odd, because over the history of humanity, if there hadn't been those of us who stay up later to protect them from getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers, these jerks wouldn't even exist. Of course, this is America, and everybody's entitled to their own ignorance. And so, you know, you just smile and whatnot at them. But here's the thing, you put these people in positions of even low-level power, and they'll start forcing the other 2/3 of the people to wake up earlier outside of their regular sleep schedules. And, you know, it's weird, because when I had my job in retail management, they paid me for 3-4 hours every day of being brain dead, tired, and unproductive. Which paid off in spades for me, because then I had, for my own personal pursuits like writing music, the most productive time of the day for myself, which happened in my case to be later on. Now, part of my story that a friend said I should mention is that I've actually had one good night's sleep. Kind of happened at random, and that really pointed out to me how bad a shape I'm in, because it was astounding, earth-shattering. I spent the whole day going like, oh my God, do normal people feel like this every day? This would be unbelievable. My entire life would be different. And here's the thing about that one night's good sleep that I got, was that in a lot of ways, I kind of wish I'd never had it, because ignorance, in this case, is not bliss, but maybe acceptance, because I just go like, oh, I just feel miserable all the time with my lack of restorative sleep. Well, meanwhile, getting 8 hours of unconsciousness. Because after that, I was always frustrated about, well, why couldn't this happen more than once? See, here's the thing. At 24, I think it's actually the 40th anniversary of my only good night's sleep. Up to that point, I just assumed that I was temperamental, sickly, and prone to endless injuries. Then I had that good night's sleep and went like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my sleep. Mind you, it took another 40 years for some sort of resolution of what was actually going on. And then at that, very little progress. I made a little bit of progress with things like changing my sleep position and this horrible thing that sucks my tongue out of my mouth and hopefully keeps me from having, instead of horrible night's sleep, just bad night's sleep. But the reason why I almost wish I didn't have that day is because after that I went like, well, body, you did it once. Can't you do it again? And I often say that. It's just like, oh, I think I'm due for my next, good night's sleep. Like 2 of them in a lifetime. Like, oh, 2, not just 1, but 2. Could you imagine? That'd be incredible. All right, here I am. Break number 1 of day number 2. The first break of the day is always the hardest. I've only been on the trail a mile. I'm relatively fresh, so that only took about 20 minutes and seems like stupid to take a break. It's like I can keep going. But it's that whole I can keep going attitude, which actually makes it so you end up can't keep going. So once again, I'm keeping to my break protocol of once every mile. I've got 3 more miles to go till I get water. I carried just a crap ton of water. I still have like 3/4 of a gallon to go 3 miles, so I've got it made. I could have carried less water, but less water is always a dumb idea. There's always something a little bit strange after being on the trail for well over a day, is to come back to a piece of civilization, a road, a sign, and you go, oh, right, civilization still exists. Seems strange after the endless miles of trail, but let's leave that quickly behind us. Go, go, go. Whew. All right, no more civilization. We're back on the trail amongst the trees. Here I am in the first aspen grove of the trip. This is still within the confines of the Buffalo Creek fire, so these aspens took the opportunity to fill in the vacant space from where the pine trees all burnt down. Aspen trees have this interesting thing that they do to make little groves like this. You see, like this is a root of a tree, and hits the surface here, and now it's made this other little tree. So practically all of these trees are probably one tree. But I wanted to point out something else that's kind of interesting over here, and that is, if you look at the base of these trees here, you see how they have this curve, these curves? And this is from when the snow piles up, the weight of it pushes against the tree and bends them over. Of course, the tree continues to try and grow upright, and you end up with this curve. If you see those guys in Switzerland, they're lederhosen, playing their alpine horns, this is the kind of tree that you get that from. You get that bend at the base, and that makes the bell of the horn, and then you go to the other end where you got a human being blowing to the end, making all the noise. All right, here's the last section of the burn area, and supposedly I'm going to be on section 3 pretty soon. So word is that there's some people with drinks and snacks a little ways up the trail. The word for this is trail angels. Although I have a feeling when I get there that I'm not going to find supernatural beings. I'm going to find actual human beings who are just being kind-hearted. So I did find some trail angels. They were in reality human beings, which means I'm on the trail. I had a hot dog, and they had a hairless cat. And then a few people that I've been bumping into on the trail throughout the day were there. We all sat around and had food. And then it was part of a campground, so there was a bathroom where I didn't have to dig a hole in the ground. So really kind of overly civilized as compared to your standard trail hiking day. Boy, I'm in part of the world here that's absolutely been decimated by fire. I thought I'd be out of this sooner, but as you can see, everything's burnt. All these trees are dead. They haven't blown down yet, so they're all still standing. I have about 2 miles to go, and then we should be at a stream, and then I think I'll call it quits. I don't want to hike too much farther today because I still got 2 more days to go. Should be about 5-mile days each day, so relaxing pace, plenty of rest, should be good. This is the end of day 2. I had been in the burnt area, but this is something different. The old burn area, that fire happened years and years ago. This is all brand new. The ground is covered with ash. All these trees are newly charred. Logs laying around like this one. So in this bleak landscape, let's talk about something bleak. You know, earlier on I was talking about how prideful and boasting people can be of how much they screw up their sleep. And if you're one of those people who go like, yeah, I only get 5 hours of sleep a night and you're a lazy person. Even if you're not one of those people, you know somebody, a friend, family member, let's take a moment. I'm going to try and save your life. Or together, if it's a friend of yours, we can try and save their lives. Here's the thing. Your brain works on chemical reactions. And like all chemical reactions, there's waste products. Let's call this brain poop. And if you think of like food poop, you know, where you stick food in your mouth and you know what happens out the other end, you wait till it accumulates and then you get rid of it at a specific time of your choosing. The brain does a similar thing. It gets rid of its brain poop in deep sleep. The majority of deep sleep happens at the end of the sleep night. So if you're consistently giving yourself 5 hours of sleep and cutting off those last 3 remaining hours, you're missing out on most of your deep sleep. So what happens to your brain poop? It just stays there. Because that's the time in that deep sleep in the late part of your sleep cycle where that brain poop is removed. It's kind of like crapping your pants and never changing your underwear. Your brain literally sits there and marinates in its own waste products day after day, year after year. Is that good for you? Not exactly. Let's take the example of 2 famous people who bragged about only getting 5 hours of sleep every night. One of them, Ronald Reagan. The other one, Margaret Thatcher. What happened to them in the end? They both died of Alzheimer's, including having years being mentally disabled at the end of their lives. If you don't want to have that fate, give yourself a decent amount of sleep. This is not about being lazy, about not being lazy. It's about your mental health. It's about living a healthy, long life. You need sleep. There's maintenance that needs to be done. You need that. So knock it off. Because people like me, who get very little deep sleep because of a medical condition, are kind of pissed at you guys because you have the choice and you screw yourselves up. It's kind of like talking to an anorexic who's proud of not eating anything, who ends up dying because they don't have the nutrition necessary to stay alive. Get your sleep. Stay alive. Don't make your loved ones go through those years of agony tending to you in your old age when you have Alzheimer's because you thought you were doing something noble and non-lazy by denying yourself the sleep you actually need.